girls and boys. We will record it, all right? And we may use that also maybe later on YouTube. So at the end of this conversation, could you be so kind, if you agree, to just sign a form where you say, okay, we are in agreement that this goes online. If you are not in agreement, you just don't sign and your teacher will tell us, all right?
So if you're willing to be famous, sign.
Anyway, this is Chittisa and Stephen Bowman.
Buongiorno.
And do you understand me when I talk in English, or shall I also talk in Italian? But I think it's a good exercise for you, right, guys?
Especially in English.
Especially in English. Great. So we keep it in English. So the two Bowmans, they are really highly qualified leadership experts and on conscious leadership in the first place and on conscious governance. So they are coming from Australia, but they are not only working in Australia, they are working all over the world. And I must say, I'm not that young anymore myself, but, and I've done a lot of training in leadership management and so forth. But what I have learned from them only recently was just extraordinary. And that's why I talked to your teacher, who is a friend of mine, and I told her, listen, what the students can gain from it is so important. And your teacher was kind enough to set it up for you. So the two Bowmans will talk to you soon. However, make the best out of it by just asking as many questions as possible, those questions that are related to you. Because the more personal the questions are, the more you will gain from it. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. Yes? So whenever you ask a question, they will introduce something to you, of course. Whenever you ask a question, you just come, maybe you raise your hand, you come to the front, you pose your question, you present your question, and you will see what will happen. Is that okay? Yes or no? I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Can that be a strong yes?
Yes.
Great, that's better. All right. Okay, then I pass on to our guest.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So, please excuse my accent. I have an Australian accent, which I can't hear. So I hope that you'll be able to pick it up. We want to talk about conscious leadership, and in particular, our view that leadership, conscious leadership, starts with who you choose to be, not what other people tell you you should be. And so it's all about the personal choices that you make. It's all about the choices that you make in every second of every day and how those choices create the future. And this is what's exciting about conscious leadership, is that every person has the ability to be a leader, and you will make more change in the world if you're willing to be a conscious leader. So from this space of being more aware, being more conscious, from this space, there's an immense possibility that each one of you sitting in there today can make huge changes in the world through who you choose to be.
The key point for this session for you to receive is that you can choose to be a conscious leader right here, right now, from this moment, from now on. You don't have to wait until you go out and have a job and have a title as a leader to be a conscious leader. You can make the choice right now to be a conscious leader in your own life and at school.
So there's your first challenge. Now, what we wanted to do just very briefly before we take questions is to give you an idea of something that's really changed our lives in the last 30 years. And that is the understanding that people choose who they want to be. Each one of you chooses from moment to moment who you want to be. And we found there's 3 different styles that people choose. There's unconscious, there's anti-conscious, and then there's conscious. And they're not better or worse, they're just very different. The interesting thing is that 99% of the people on this planet choose to be unconscious. They choose not to be aware. They buy into what everyone else tells them is real without creating their own reality. So unconscious is where we are on autopilot, where we just go ahead day to day doing the things we've always done because that's the way we do them. And that's unconscious. It's not wrong.
Yeah.
It just is.
The most important thing is not to go into judgment of right or wrong, good or bad. Being conscious is a state of being that allow you to function greater than what you could be choosing if you function from the state of unconscious or anti-conscious. Unconscious is a state that everyone choosing to function from if they are being in this contextual reality. So that's a major autopilot mode that we all doing. So can you imagine if you function from a space of consciousness, how much more can you create and generate in your life? It's beyond what other people could ever consider.
And you'll make a lot more money. But we'll maybe talk about that later.
It's not about money today.
It's about conscious. But I just say, you will make more money. So unconscious, just be aware of unconscious. So typically when you get to the end of the day and you say, well, I don't know what happened to the day. I was just very busy. Anyone who says they're busy is probably functioning from unconscious because they've already decided they're busy. Now, the other side of it is what we call anti-conscious, which is actively working against the awareness that you could have. Anti-conscious is where someone is choosing to be a bully, where they're choosing to have power over someone else, where they're choosing to create harm in what they're doing. And we have many examples in all sorts of areas, whether it be at home, whether it be in the corporate world, of people that, one of our favourite terms is the corporate psychopath, which is the person who is determined to create the world in their image, and unless you agree with them, you're fired.
And these 3 states are states you function from choice. You can choose to be conscious, you can choose to be unconscious, or you can choose to be anti-conscious. It's a choice that you actually make, even though when you're unconscious, it's still a choice because you're not choosing to be conscious. So, and it's not the stages, it's a state. Sometimes you can move in and out of those states.
In any one day, sometimes I am all 3. The awareness of where you're choosing to function from means that you can create the change. But if you're functioning from unconscious, you don't even know you're doing it. If you're functioning from anti-conscious, you're so determined you are right that nothing else exists in your universe except anything that supports how right you think you are. Probably not in your best interests. So what we want to do now is to focus a little bit on the notion of what does it mean to actually be a conscious leader? What is this strange word, consciousness? So we just want to explore that. And can I say it's really practical. It's not philosophy. It actually is how this world can work and how each of you can have an impact on the future that each one of you are creating right now. So it's all about, so when we talk about conscious, it's about awareness. I think one of the best definitions of consciousness was a colleague of ours, Gary Douglas, who said consciousness is where you are aware of everything and you judge nothing. Judgment is one of the biggest destroyers on this earth. Judgment means you have judged something as right or you've judged it as wrong. You've judged it as correct. You've judged it as incorrect. You've judged it as true. You've judged it as false. The problem with judgment is that once you judge something, nothing else can exist in your universe that does not meet that judgment.
Judgment eliminate awareness.
So it doesn't mean that you don't have preferences and, you know, I like this, I like that. But if you have judged that someone is bad, then all you will ever see is the badness.
And that's what we mean by judgment. People often say, but don't we have to judge to make decision and choice? That's different energy and different things again. We're talking about if you're going to make friends with someone and you have a judgment about, I don't like them because they have blonde hair or whatever, that is a judgment that eliminates everything that you could see in that person.
Now, here's an interesting one for you. Some of you are going to find this very interesting. If you judge someone as nice, then all you can see is the niceness and not where they're being nasty, horrible people.
So judgment, not always negative either. Judgment is a point of view that you have that's not true. You know, when you look at someone and you say, oh, that person is so nice, I like her or him so much, then you can't see anything that there might be anti-conscious at all. So if you could be aware in the space of no point of view about that person is right or wrong or good or bad, then you will be able to make the choice from expanded zone of awareness.
So here's a tool. We weren't going to cover this, but we got on with it anyway. Here's one of the tools for you that you can use today and tomorrow.
I wonder, though, Steve, maybe people might have one question to start off with before we go into the tools.
I know. Why don't we ask for some questions?
And may I also ask something? Do you understand everything? Or is it too fast? Can you say that again? Because we didn't get it.
Understand okay.
They understand okay. Perfect. All right.
We can slow down a bit too.
So, any questions, particularly from the front row?
Any question will do.
Which are the most important skills a conscious leader should have?
Could you get closer to the computer? We couldn't hear you.
Which are the most important skills a conscious leader should have?
Awesome.
What was it?
What's the most important skills should the conscious leader have?
Great
Is
question.
That correct?
Yep.
Okay, Steve.
Oh, you can start off on that.
I translate.
So the most. That's a great question always to start off with. Some of the most important skills is to understand how you choose to function in this world. Because you can go to university, you can go to school, they can teach you all of the techniques for being a leader, and most of them miss the point that there's no point in knowing that stuff unless you know how you choose to be as a person. So the most important skills for a conscious leader are, number one, to have no point of view. To have no point of view.
Well, the big picture of important skill is self-mastery, really, self-mastery. If you can totally be everything that you could be, then you will start being a conscious leader. And those things that Steve's going to talk about now will fit under self-mastery.
Mm-hmm.
May I just ask the name of this student? What's your name? Francesco.
Hey, Francesco.
Thank you, Francesco.
So the first one is to have no point of view. So, for example, Steve Jobs from Apple had no point of view that he had to get anything right. That's why he took the iPad and shelved that as a product for 2 years while they developed the iPhone. Everyone told him he was crazy. Everyone told him he was wrong. He had no point of view about whether he was right or wrong. He just knew that something else was possible. And each one of you have that as a gift, if you choose to have no point of view. So that's the first one. The second thing is to choose to be the question in everything. Being the question is where you function from that sense of curiosity. The greatest gift that you can be to this world is if you are constantly asking, what if, what else, what are the other ways, what if that wasn't so? All of those questions from that sense of curiosity will help unlock the innovation that we are all capable of creating.
Be in the space of curiosity is probably the greatest skill that you could develop, because curiosity is the thing that allows you to see infinite choice and infinite possibilities that are available to you right here, right now. Unless you have capacity to be the question and to be in the generative moment of what else is possible. That's a space of curiosity. Constantly asking what else is possible? What else can I choose here? Because there are infinite choice and infinite possibilities available to you right here, right now. And if you don't function from the space of curiosity, you will miss out on so much. So start cultivate capacity to be curious, to start asking, okay, what else is possible here? Because if you not function from curiosity, you will go into unconscious mode of conclusion, projection, assumption, judgment, which stop you from having everything you could have and what you could create and generate in your life.
So we work with leaders around the world. We work with boards of directors, we work with CEOs, we work with senior executives in all sorts of sectors. And the one thing that they really get when we have these conversations with them, as we're having with you, the next future generation of leaders of this world, the one thing they get is understanding 4 key elements. Question, the power of question. Not asking questions, but being the question, that sense of innate curiousness. The ability to know that everything is a choice. There is no such thing as no choice. If you've decided there is no choice, that's just a choice you've made.
And that's a state of unconscious. When you think that I have no choice, just say to yourself, I step into a state of unconscious. So what choice do I have here that I have not yet considered will allow you to step out of autopilot mode, unconscious mode, and start getting into a space of conscious leader that you could truly be.
So question, choice. The second one is possibility. There are possibilities everywhere, unless you decided there's a problem. If you decided there's a problem with something or with someone, you will never see the other possibilities. So possibilities are boundless if you are willing to function from question and choice. Now, why this is important for leaders is what a good leader does is they make the choices that no one else thought of. No one else thought of those choices because everyone else was determined this is the way it has to be, and everyone else was saying you can't do this. A good leader says, well, what if that wasn't true? What would that look like? What would I need to change? And then they go out and do it. So
conscious leaders function from a space, what if nothing is a problem and everything is infinite possibilities? Just tap into that energy now, that whatever right here, right now, that you think that is a problem. And you ask yourself, well, what if that's not a problem? What if that's different possibilities waiting for me to receive right now? You're going to let go of the worries, you're going to let go of the stress, and you're going to start looking at, so what's possible here? If I don't see it as a problem, what is truly possible here?
And it opens up a whole range of different things that no one else would think of. And this is the exciting part for each one of you. Each one of you have this as a gift. And what we want to be able to give you is some language around that will actually help you to be the gift that you are. So question, choice, possibility, and then the fourth one is contribution. So what contribution can I be to this and everyone else concerned? Now, contribution is not about being positive and I'm going to give money away. A contribution might be where you say no to something. That might be the contribution. My contribution here is to say no. So it doesn't mean that you have to be everything to everyone, but what contribution can I be? What contribution can others be? What is the contribution that can be created here? So if you, and can I please suggest you write these 4 words down: question, choice, possibility, and contribution. I use this all the time whenever I'm dealing with a board of directors. I will always go in and say, so what questions do I need to be here? What choices do I have? What choices might they have that they haven't considered? What are the possibilities that had not been considered? And then what contribution can this be to the board, to the organisation, to the staff? And they pay me a lot of money because they call that being strategic. Question, choice, possibility, contribution. Please try it today, tomorrow. When you've got a presentation that you need to give, then run your presentation through those 4 elements. What are the questions that could be asked here? What are the choices that are possible with this? What are the possibilities that it might create? And what are the contributions that could be created? I guarantee your presentation will be the better for it. That was pretty good.
That's good. So
very good.
another question?
So further questions, come up, please. That's great. And also, may I just say before somebody will come up, I think those 4 keywords, they are so extremely valuable. With regards to the contribution, may I just say a big thank you to the 2 of you, because, you know, when we talked about having this session with you, you know, the 2 Bowmans came from the space of contribution, because they just wanted to make this happen to these students, because they said, okay, I think, or we think that you can benefit from it. So thank you so much. And I'm sure you have already benefited from it so far. Yeah.
Could you translate question, choice, possibility, and contribution into Italian? Because it might be slightly different.
Exactly. Well, before I translate, is there anybody of you in this group who would like to translate the 4 keywords into Italian? That would be great. So we do it together, because it's easy it's easy to just give you all the hints, but maybe you could do it. And how would you, what's question? Can somebody come up?
There he is.
Yeah. What's your name? Alessandro, can you, go a little bit down so that we can see you. Is it Alessandro? Yeah. So Alessandro, can you please translate these words for us?
Yes, question is domanda.
Domanda. But did you get the nuance about what domanda means? Is it just, posing questions, or is it being the question?
Being the question.
Yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Then.
So choice is scelta.
Exactly. How would you define then scelta for you?
Scelta, considerare tutte le varie possibilità. In English.
Consider all the possibilities.
Good. And can I just add, and choice is only good for about 10 seconds, and then you choose again, and choose again, and choose again, and choose again.
It's not set in stone.
Not set.
Okay.
Good.
Because we have to consider possibilities.
Yeah.
So our choice is based on our possibilities. And then contribution, that means contribuire, and so to give a personal consideration and can I say?
Perfect,
Very
Alessandro.
good.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Do you have any other question, Alessandro?
While you've got the seat, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of being a conscious leader?
What are the advantages?
The advantages and disadvantages. If in doubt, ask what are the advantages and disadvantages. Very good. Well done. So, look, conscious leadership includes everything. So you can choose to be unconscious. That's fine. Most people do. It works. It's probably not going to create the sort of life you know can be created, but it works. Anti-conscious, you can all think of people who pretty much are anti-conscious. You think of some of the
All the bullies.
All the bullies.
All the bullies are anti-conscious. That's easy.
Let's not talk about politicians, but you know the bullies and the people that are actively working to just create what they want to create, regardless of whether they harm anyone else or anything else. That's very anti-conscious. The benefit of being conscious is it creates the planet that we all want to live in. It creates the world that we are proud to be part of and creates change.
So the advantage for being the conscious leader is you have the contribution to create the futures that are sustainable, and the world needs us now. As you all know, that the future will not be sustainable unless we actually create and choose something totally different. And the reason why we're traveling the world at the moment, trying to invite and inspire people to know that there are different possibilities in the way they create their life and their reality, is because we would like people to function in more conscious space, so we can have futures that are sustainable. If all of us starting to function from a space of conscious awareness, we can make the world a better place. And you know, you all probably heard the quote from Gandhi, that he said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." This is exactly what it is. Be conscious and aware. That will allow you to be the change that you would like to see in the world, if that's something you would like to choose.
And the really exciting bit of this is that for each one of you that choose to be more aware, each one of you that choose to be more conscious, you will impact on hundreds of other people just by who you choose to be. Let me tell you a little something. You might want to do some research on this yourself later on.
And once you choose to be, whether you choose to be conscious, unconscious, or anti-conscious, you become that energy. When you choose to be a conscious leader, you have the energy of expansiveness, of healing, caring, nurturing, and joyful and fun. And that the energy that you are being a conscious leader is palpitating all throughout the universe, and you can be the entrainment for everything and everyone to be in that space without you having to do anything. So that is another benefit of choosing to be a conscious leader.
And you can be that if you are going to run a multi-billion-dollar company. You can be this if you choose to be a house husband. You can choose this if you want to be the janitor. It doesn't matter what your position is, because it's who you choose to be that creates that change.
And the example of being conscious and be the energy that can change everything. For example, if you walk into the room of all the people that being disharmony and having a lot of fights or a lot of conflicts, and if you yourself being totally conscious and aware and coming from a space of possibilities and from choice, you and your energy can actually change the energy of that room to become to be something totally different. Let's say if you are the leader that have to work with two people that having conflict with one another, and if you can actually be in the space of conscious awareness and from the space of possibilities
Totally present.
and totally present, you can actually change the energy that those two people have between one another.
We do that with boards of directors where we've got 15 or 16 people, each of them going like that to each other energetically. I can walk into the room, Chutisa can walk into the room, and within about 5 minutes, you can feel the energy change, and all of a sudden they're becoming more focused and they're being more strategic, and we haven't said a word. It's like magic, because it's the energetic entrainment of who you choose to be. And this is what I wanted to mention. There was a Dutch scientist, clockmaker, Christian Huygens, H-W-G-Y-E-N-S, Christian Huygens, who was a grandfather clockmaker back in the 1600s. And he found over many years that if he was to have a whole range of grandfather clocks, big ones, little ones, medium-sized ones, and he put them all into one room, and he had the pendulums swinging, each one of them would swing at a different frequency. Within 24 hours, they all entrained themselves to have the same frequency as the largest grandfather clock. That led to the theory of quantum physics. It led to music theory. It led to harmonics theory. Understanding that energy entrains other energies until they're all in sync. If you want to change a situation, you be that change yourself. And oftentimes you don't even need to say anything. Or if you do say something, you will know what to say. People say to us all the time, how do you know what to say? And we just say, well, we know. It's the energy of what's required.
Follow the energy.
The energy of what's required. A true leader knows what to do. They know when to do it. And they know who to do it with. And no amount of schooling, no amount of university work will give that to you. It's who you choose to be this energy of question, choice, possibility, and contribution. And it's something that you can do from today onwards, now that you know that it's possible.
It's the choice that you have to make for yourself.
May I just pop in here again, because you talked about advantages.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also another part in Alessandro's question, which was, are there also disadvantages with being a conscious leader? So can you also talk about the disadvantages?
The disadvantages are you'll be uncomfortable because people will judge you. But people are going to judge you anyway. The disadvantages of being more aware is that you are more aware. The disadvantage is that people are going to see you maybe as a little strange because you are no longer controllable. People realize they cannot control you. And you will find that people that try to control you will disappear. So it can be an uncomfortable place if you judge it. So the disadvantages are it raises your levels of awareness. You are aware of a whole lot more. Just a little hint, do not try and fix anyone. Do not try and save the world. Just be who you are. Otherwise you'll go crazy.
Yeah, once you start expanding your awareness, which we all have, a lot of us don't actually claim and own our capacity to be aware. And you hear all the time about really famous and successful people that they tap into their awareness or their intuition. And now that's becoming a major training thing for leaders in the business world of how to create the business from their intuitive power. So we call it awareness. So once you're starting to develop the capacity to expand your awareness, you're going to be able to receive all kinds of things. And exactly what Steve said, it's going to be uncomfortable because a lot of things you receive, you will feel the sense of you trying to fix something when it doesn't need to be fixed. And that's what happens when you are aware. You keep wondering, why do people behave that way? Why are they trying to be unconscious when they know that when you know that there are different ways, and then you're going to try to go and fix everyone, and that's disadvantage. You have to start coming back and being in the question, choice, possibility, and contribution. So when you have more awareness, you're going to see, why is he functioning that way? Then you can start asking, so what else is possible here? What choice do I have? Or should I go and try to tell them that there should be something totally different? Should I try to change them to be something that I know that is truly possible? Then you're going to realize that, that only one person who you can change is you. You cannot force anyone else to change. You can inspire them to see different possibilities, but you cannot force anyone else to change. So first and foremost, you have to be willing to change you. So that, to us, it's not a disadvantage because everything is choice, everything is possibilities for us.
That was a great question.
And by saying that, I think nobody wanted to say that university studies are not good, right?
No.
Just for you to know. That was just an example, right? Okay.
It's important to have all the information, education, and everything, because that's the thing that allows you to be everything that you can be. I mean, if you don't have the education, then you're going to be clueless about what's going around and what's going on in the world. Education allows us to use this reality to work for us. If you don't have education, you wouldn't be able to use this reality to work for you.
And that education never stops. So if you choose to go to university, you'll educate yourself and be educated in certain areas. But if you're willing to be a conscious leader whilst you're at university, you will learn so much more in different ways where other people look at you and say, wow, how do they do that? Also, when you leave university, and you may go out into the workforce, or you might decide to create a family or whatever, the constant education is absolutely critical, because this reality has so much to offer us that we cannot take advantage of those offers unless we educate ourselves about what is possible. So, educate yourself not only about your own career that you choose, or the multiple careers that you will choose, but also other things that are actually interesting and exciting for you. So educate yourself about money, educate yourself about how people function, educate yourself about anything that creates your desire. We're 63 years old now. We're constantly educating ourselves about things because it's fun and it's interesting, and you can actually create even greater choices and impacts on the world. So the education side of things is absolutely critical. But the other thing I would say is educate, but never give away your awareness. If someone tells you something, be aware they've told you, but don't give away your own awareness either.
The power that you can be is to have the power of curiosity and the question, and the power of the ability to expand your capacity to learn, to educate yourself, and combine the two together. Can you see the potency you could become when you can actually function from awareness and receiving all the information? To be a conscious leader, you have to be willing to receive all of the information available to you for you to be able to make a choice from awareness. So the next one, you have to be able to educate yourself to receive the information. But you know, as you know, that if you Google anything, if you go into the internet, you will get a lot of information. Being a conscious leader and be willing to ask the question will allow you to know which information is the information that true, on which one information that have a lot of lies attached to it. So this will allow you to never just buy everything as real and true. Allow you to use your question to ask, well, that information feels strange. I don't know what it is, but the information that they told me, it's strange. So you can ask, okay, which one is the truth and which one is the truth with a lot of lies attached? Because a lot of information we get from the internet is half the truth with a lot of lies attached. So if you can actually function from consciousness and start asking, well, that information I'm receiving doesn't feel right. So which one is true and which one is, you know, the truth with a lot of lies attached? Then it will give you capacity to make choice from totally different place.
Well done.
Any other questions, girls and boys?
These are great questions, by the way. Keep them coming. If you ask us questions, we'll tell you stuff that you'll never hear anywhere else.
Can you tell us your name, please? Bea? Thea. Okay, Thea.
Hi, Thea.
Hi. In a situation where someone is stronger than us, what should we do practically?
Okay, what do you mean by stronger?
Bullyism or something like this.
Okay.
So what to do when someone who functions from anti-conscious and bullying,
from bullying,
coming to you, what should you do?
Yeah. Okay, so you cannot be bullied unless you choose to be bullied. So someone can try and make you smaller, but if you have no point of view about it and just remove yourself from that situation, then it no longer occurs. One of the things that we do a lot of work with senior executives who are bullies. And the difficulty is when people buy into what that person is trying to manipulate. So the best antidote for someone who is trying to impose their will on you is to listen to what they say, but don't buy it as real. And in particular, when someone, this might be interesting, wasn't going to talk about this, but this has helped me over many, many decades. When someone accuses you of something, they accuse you of being stupid, they accuse you of being lazy, they accuse you of, you know, that energy of accusing. That means that they are being that or doing that themselves. Because when someone accuses you of something, it tells you more about that person. And the reason for that is that they cannot accuse you of something unless it was already in their universe that was possible. So just be aware of that. Also, if someone is trying to impose their will on you, you still have the choice to say no. Be willing to walk away from anything. One of the greatest gifts you can be in your life, and one of the most strategic words that you can say, is no. And be willing to walk away. That willingness to walk away from anything is the greatest power that you can give yourself. Doesn't mean you have to walk away, but you have to be willing to walk away. So when you go for a job interview, rather than thinking, please pick me, please choose me, I need a job, please, 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 even though you're not saying that, the energy is there, then be with that conversation and be the energy of, I will choose this, but I can also walk away. And what happens is when you tap into that energy, the words that come out of your mouth are totally different than if you function from, please pick me, please pick me. So that willingness to walk away, that willingness to say no. You know, we have said no to clients who wanted to hire us because they wanted us to be in service to them. And we said, no, that doesn't work for me. Which is a great phrase, by the way. No, that doesn't work for me. And then shut up, be quiet, and listen to what the other person says.
I think the key thing is, you know, if you have to interact with someone who trying to make you wrong, or trying to impose their point of view on you, or trying to bully you to see their point of view, or we're talking now not a physical,
or control you,
not physical bullying, but trying to emotionally control you in any way, shape, or form, like by trying to verbally bullying you and all these things, you have to step back and say, that's interesting. They are choosing to be that. They are choosing to be either unconscious or anti-conscious. It's a choice that they are making in that moment. Now, if you just, I'm not talking about physically step back, you still can sit there and say, okay, so I'm choosing to be conscious. What energy would I have to be to allow me to function from a space of no judgment, no conclusion, and be willing to receive them to be whatever they are choosing to be, because I can't change that person.
And you'll also
but
know,
I can be the change that I want to see in the world. So be the energy that you know that you can change the energy of that person. And you know, the thing we talk about is push the barrier down when someone trying to bully you to do something. If you have a barrier up, you tend to see that the bully or someone who trying to impose something on you will trying to smash the barrier. It's a nature of people that if you have the barrier, they will trying to break down the barrier so they can impose their point of view on you. So when you're in that situation, lower your barrier down, just lower and just be open. And they were not trying to imposing things on you. And you're like, basically you become a marshmallow and no one cannot punch and no one can actually, control marshmallow really if you lower the barrier. So basically be in the space of not trying to fight them, not trying to justify or trying to prove anything, and just be you.
Is there any, I just have an additional question to this question, because I think this takes us also, thank you Alessandra for this great question, by the way. This takes us into the energy of cyberbullying as well, right? Not Alessandra, Thea. Cyberbullying. So is there any hint, any idea, any suggestion you could give us and the students if something like that were to happen? Because then you just treat maybe on Instagram or wherever, something about you, and you sit somewhere else and, and you see your own pictures distributed all over, shared with anybody. So could you, from a conscious leader's point of view?
So one of the things, particularly with cyberbullying, is that please never try and work out why someone has done that. If you try and find out why, you will go crazy. People do silly stuff because they can. There is no reason behind it. It's who they choose to be.
They're choosing to be anti-conscious.
They're choosing to be anti-conscious. So one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself as a conscious leader is to realize that when someone tries to attack you verbally or online, it actually has nothing to do with you. You just happen to be there. You happen to be the convenient target for who they are choosing to be. It has nothing to do with you. Now, it might feel like that it does, but they don't care that it's you. They'll do it to someone else. If it wasn't you, it'd be someone else they did it to. So it's actually not about you. It's telling you about them. So be interesting point of view. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't then write to them, say, take it down, or I'll sue you, or take it down, or whatever the appropriate comment would be. Being aware does not mean that you are a doormat. You know a doormat, when you walk in the front door, there's a doormat, people wipe their shoes on it. No, that's not it. Your greatest gift is to say, no, not going to work. Doesn't work for me. So being aware also means know when to say no, when to tell someone to stop it, when to escalate the situation. The key thing in all of this is that when someone is trying to destroy you in their world, first of all, understand it actually has got nothing to do with you. It's who they choose to be. From that space, you can then say, so what do I need to create differently here that will actually change this situation?
Well, you could first ask the question, so what is this? What is going on here? What can I do about this? Can I do something about this? What choice do I have here about this situation? Because quite often when things like that happen, you go into
I'm wrong,
judging yourself and reacting. So if you could just get yourself into, okay, what's going on here? What's happening here? What choice do I have here? What else is possible here? What can I be and do here to change all of this? You immediately go into being the questions instead of being the reaction of, oh dear, this is terrible, I hate it, and all those are just reaction. Go into the question, what is this? But not going to why are they doing it? Because you would never know why they are doing it. And don't try to work out why, just say, what is this? What can I do with this situation? Can I do something with it? Because you're going to come up with different lists of things from your awareness of what you can do with it. And if you get nothing I can do with this, then you have to walk away.
Can I give a couple of other things? Okay, so I think some of you will understand what I'm about to say, but to me this is very exciting. Every time you are willing to receive a judgment, just receive it. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's not true, but I'll just receive it and not react to it. Every time you receive a judgment from anyone, you've just made 10,000 euro. Every time you receive a judgment from anyone, you've just made 10,000 euro.
Energetically, not physically.
Oh,
not just actually.
Although you could check your bank account, because
energetically.
See, what I want you to get here is that every time you're willing to receive the good, the bad, and the ugly, it opens up possibilities for you. It opens up possibilities you hadn't otherwise considered. It's not just about being, a monk up on a hilltop and going into meditation all the time. This is actually real life practical stuff. Every time you're willing to receive a judgment, you create more money. It may not be in your bank account, but it's out there somewhere.
You create more possibilities, really. And the possibilities often translate into money as well.
Can you just, explain the notion of receiving judgment, what that actually means? Because it's not that easy to integrate.
It is not easy to receive judgment. No one likes to have anyone judge them, even though you know it's not true. The first thing we want to do is justify and confront or prove that that's not right. And any of those, justify, confront, or prove that they are wrong, is like you buy into that judgment.
You've already bought it's real.
So you want to talk about receiving the judgment.
Receiving is when you're willing to be with what is being given to you or thrown at you without any point of view about it. So it's not just about the nasty, horrible thing, so receiving judgment, but one of the greatest gifts you can do is actually receive money as well too. Most people don't know how to receive money or to receive someone who is giving you gratitude. Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to do it anyway. That's not receiving. This is simple, thank you. But without buying it as real. Your willingness to receive is one of the greatest gifts you can be to yourself in your life. Because if you're willing to receive the good, the bad, and the ugly with no point of view, then you will be able to see what actually is being offered to you.
Maybe you should give that example about that bully, the corporate psychopath who
I've had so many. Which one?
The one that constantly judging you and trying to turf you out of the one that said that you keep on saying, what exactly do you mean by
one.
that? And by just keep on asking that, he had to let go.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just trying to. He has so many people.
I've got so many corporate psychopaths I work with.
That's a good
Can
story.
I just say, I love it. I absolutely love the corporate psychopath because they are such fun to be with because they have no idea what's going on when they start to change or when we actually ask them to leave the organisation. So, but this was a very quick story.
But first you have to be willing to receive.
You've got to be able to receive because...
Corporate psychopath.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to be everything and trust that you can handle the situation if you go into that space. If you don't trust yourself and if you don't trust that you can be everything you can be, you're not going to feel comfortable being in that space. So you can tell the story.
So just imagine this in your mind. So here's a boardroom of 12 people, all very senior, male and female, all CEOs or chairs of very large multi-billion-dollar companies. And so there's a boardroom. They've had a new director elected onto their board who happened to be a legal person, an attorney.
And corporate psychopaths.
Absolute corporate psychopath. They invited me to come in to lead a conversation around strategic planning. So I walk into the boardroom saying, this will be fun. I'm going to enjoy this. Strategy, one of my favourite topics. And I sat down and the chairman of the board said, everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Stephen Bowman from Conscious Governance. Now, before he finished that, this new director stood up and said to the board, the chairman interrupted me, this new director stood up and said, I am asking this board to resign today. I have the legal right to do this. My secretary is outside with your resignation letters that I expect every single one of you to sign to resign today. You have been ignorant of our membership requests. You have been arrogant in how you've been dealing with the whole sector, and you must resign. I have 3 new people who are coming onto this board, but you have to resign now. There was no "and welcome Steve" in that either. So the first thing I did was after he sat down, after his ranting, when he sat down, I said to him, so, John, what exactly do you mean by ignorant? Now, this is a great technique that you can use. When someone is accusing you of something, and he was accusing the whole board of being ignorant.
Everyone, the whole board.
Except him. So the best way to counter that is to actually ask him, what exactly do you mean by ignorant? Because what it does is it forces them to talk about what their agenda is and to actually delve in. But the important part is the word exactly. Whatever that is in Italian, very important word. What exactly do you mean by whatever that word is?
Esattamente.
So he then went on and said, well, and then he gave some examples of where the board he thought was being ignorant. Now, I then said, so what exactly do you mean by arrogant? And he gave some examples. I then said, so what would need to change to create this as something different? There was another conversation. My next question is, so what would we need to put in place to create that? All of a sudden, over 15 minutes, it went from being accusation, nasty, horrible, to a strategic conversation about the changes that were required.
But he's still a bully.
He's still a bully.
We didn't change him.
He called me up that night. He called me up at home. He got hold of my mobile phone number. He called me at night time, about 6:30 at night, because I was feeling pretty pleased with myself, thinking, oh, this worked out quite well. We actually had a really good strategic conversation, and the board didn't have to resign. But this psychopath called me up at 6 o'clock that night, and he said to me on the phone, I will make sure you never work in this country again. I am going to make sure that I will destroy your reputation. You have ignored me. You have belittled me. And I will make sure. And then he went on and made all these threats. Do you know what I said to him? What exactly do you mean by ignoring? Now, how do you say upset in Italian? He was very upset with me. And he got even more upset when I asked him these questions, which made me very happy. So it's just a technique that you can use, but never buy that as real. They are doing it because they have chosen to try and attack you in an anti-conscious way.
But what the cool thing that Steve did to create the space for the whole board to be something totally different. If Steve wasn't there and he came and did the thing to the board, they would react, they would fight, they would create a lot of disharmony within the board.
And destroy the value of that organization.
And destroy the organization. The board will become anti-conscious board. And we got the email from the CEO saying, thank you so much for being there, because you create the space for the people and the board director to see that there are different possibilities that we can function in. And we actually got rid of this guy at the end because you gave us the space to see who he is, who he was being, and what else we can create in this board now. So by being willing to receive all of the judgment, being willing to be open for this guy to attack him and receive everything, we were being a contribution for the board, for the organization to expand and grow and to create something totally different in the world. So that is the receiving, open.
I just wanted to ask you, how would you translate being upset? How would you translate that? Essere infastiditi, yes, but even more, right?
More.
It's more, essere distrutti poi alla fine, anche emotivamente, Esatto. Is there, I think it's already more than 1 hour we've been online with them. It's so interesting with these young students. Is there anybody else? Maybe we take a little bit more time. How long? Maybe a few hours. It's fine. So is there, oh yeah, who is this?
Hi. Coming back to the aspect of having no point.
Can you just introduce yourself very quickly? What's your name?
Alex.
Alex. Okay.
Hi, Alex.
Hi. Coming back to the points of view, you told us that we haven't to consider points of view, but if we make a choice, we normally base that choice on points of view. So isn't there a contradiction between these two aspects?
Yeah, there's always the interesting thing of if you have no point of view about having a point of view. Because I have points of view about all sorts of things. The key thing is I'm willing to change them if they need to change.
It's about fixed point of view that we're talking about here. Because, you know, there's so many people have very fixed point of view about how things are supposed to be, to the point that they couldn't see any other possibilities. And when Steve talk about no point of view, he really means no fixed point of view, because we do all have point of view. We all have reference points. We all have the preference of how things are supposed to be. But if we make our point of view fixed, if we make our point of view right or wrong, good or bad, then we make the choice based on this contextual reality, really. So what we are talking about, what would it be like if you make your choice based on the question of possibilities? Still have your point of view, still have all the training, education, information you have, but at the same time be the question about, so what choice do I have here about, let's say you want to invest in cryptocurrency. You did all the training, you did all the education, you do all the research about it. Then the next thing is, with all of your training, education, and information about cryptocurrency, now you have to make a choice. But if you have a fixed point of view to say that cryptocurrency is the only thing for the future, and if I don't do it now, I'm going to lose out and I'm going to be future poor forever, then you bought a fixed point of view and you wouldn't be able to see or ask the question, so what's the choice for me here? What is cryptocurrency about? You know, then you start going into the question. You can give some example about the question you can ask about cryptocurrency, because a lot of people see cryptocurrency about Bitcoins and Ethereum, where there are so much more out there. Do you know about cryptocurrency, guys?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the great things always is, if you've got a fixed point of view about that it's either good and I have to do it, or it's bad because it's silly, then those points of view stop you from looking at what else is possible.
And when it's become so fixed, because you have bought it as real and true, you have no other possibilities in your universe.
Probably the best example I can give you about a fixed point of view, tap into when you felt that feeling, even if it's internally inside you. The only reason you feel that way is because you have a fixed point of view about how something should be. The only time that you will ever feel upset, antagonized, disappointed, whatever that might be, the only time you have those feelings is when you have a fixed point of view about how something should be. If you come across that feeling, and you will all come across this feeling, ask yourself, if I had no point of view about this, what could be here? If I had no point of view about this. So personally, I found whenever I feel that, it's not fair, how dare they say that, or I'm really frustrated by this, okay? There's a fixed point of view in there. You don't even need to know what the fixed point of view is. Just recognize that it's there and say, okay, so if I had no point of view about this, what would I do next? And then all of a sudden it disappears and you get,
what choice do I have?
What choice do I have if I had no fixed point of view here?
Because when you ask the question, what choice do I have? Do you realize that your choice have multiple possibilities, not just one? You know, most people think that when they make a choice, there's only one choice. No, when you make choice, you have multiple possibilities available to you, not just one possibility.
This is fractal geometry in real life. Every choice creates multiple other choices. Every one of those choices creates multiple other choices. And every one of those. So you can see this sort of fractal geometrics occurring from one choice. Now, you can destroy all those other possibilities by judging your choices right, or by judging your choices wrong. It destroys everything else that was created. The greatest destruction you can create in this world is if you judge something as right or wrong. So be aware, every choice creates, but don't try and get the right choice, and don't beat yourself up if you make what other people said was a wrong choice. Just say, it's a choice. Okay, I'll choose again. Well, that didn't work out. I'll choose again.
That's why Steve said that you can choose again and again and again and again, because there are multiple possibilities available to you. So let's say you make a choice to go into being part of something. Don't just settle with just one choice. If you know that you are having multiple possibilities. You can choose this one, and if it doesn't work for you, you can say, okay, this is not working. Then you can choose something else.
And a true conscious leader is one who knows there are multiple choices and multiple possibilities and are always looking for them. Every single organization in this world that has been destroyed because they weren't willing to look at other choices they could make. You could go on all day.
I think there's another person coming closer.
I'm enjoying this hot seat. It's good.
It's great.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo.
Hi, Lorenzo.
Hi. How can we understand if ours is an opinion or a judgment?
Okay, so a judgment would be if you've already decided. An opinion could be, but I can change it if it needs to change. So when you look at something, I have an opinion on this. I've got opinions. I've got points of view on everything.
The judgment always have right or wrong, good or bad attached. You know, if you look at the judgment, if you say, I only eat pasta and I don't eat anything else, is there any right or wrong, good or bad attached to that? If you say, I only eat rice and I don't like pasta, any right or wrong, good or bad attached to that? If you don't have any judgment about anything right or wrong, good or bad, you can have everything.
You can choose. And then you would choose not to eat rice rather than saying you can't eat rice. Everything is a choice unless you've decided it's not. And that's a choice that you've made. So by all means, have your opinion, but also don't try and get other people to see that opinion. Don't try and force other people to agree with you, because it doesn't matter whether they agree with you. If you want something to occur, there are millions of ways of making that occur rather than trying to beat someone up to get them to do what you want them to do. Look at the other 1.5 million ways of creating that change, and you'll find that most of those are even greater than what you thought was the only way of doing it, which was to make this person do it. So opinions, absolutely, but be willing to change them if they need to change. If you have determined that you're right, then people aren't going to want to talk to you or interact with you because they know that no matter what they say, you're going to ignore and always bring it back to your right point of view. We all know people like this.
But if you have opinions that based on conclusion, you know, you have to be aware, is your opinions just an opinion, or is it, if you have conclusion, projection and judgment to that opinion, then you already have a fixed point of view.
If you feel you need to defend your opinion, then just realize that you are coming from a fixed point of view. Don't judge it, just be aware of it. But every time you feel you need to defend something, then you've already determined that what you think is right and correct. You should never defend. You should never justify. This is a great gift for you going into the corporate world, all right? Never defend, never justify. People will try and get you to defend. They will try and get you to justify, all right? Don't go there, because all that does is solidify what they've already decided is wrong that you're doing.
So you know that when you turn your opinion into a fixed point of view, when you do it from right or wrong, good or bad, from the conclusion, from projection, and from judgment.
Or from the feeling.
Can you give a clear example with regards to not defending and not justifying? Because that doesn't seem to be so easy to do, but maybe with an
good example is the one that the board of all the GP, general practitioner doctors who accusing the thing, and you go ahead without defending.
So can I tell you another story? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I can't see your heading, but I'll take that as a yes. Lorenzo, is that okay? Someone I know?
Lorenzo, is that okay?
How come they're all really good-looking students?
They're all good-looking. It's Italian students.
Oh, because they're Italian students. So, we had a board of directors that were mainly doctors, general practitioners, and they became very upset with something that their CEO did based on something that I suggested she might look at doing. long story short, anyway, the
multicultural board.
Multicultural,
because we are very multicultural society in Australia.
So we had people from Eastern Europe, from Central Europe, from Asian countries on this board. The one thing they had in common is that they hated and distrusted government of any sort, yet they were funded by government. So there was all sorts of interesting little nuances in there. Anyway, I got a phone call from the chairman. He said, Stephen, we want you to fly to our city, Sydney.
We live in Melbourne, so he has to fly to Sydney.
We want you to fly to Sydney. We're not going to pay for you. We want to tell you how absolutely disgusted we are with some of the work that has come through, that our CEO has said that you've told her to do, and that and it's going to be a very unpleasant meeting for you. This is what the chairman told me.
Mm-hmm. So Steve got on the plane with the awareness that never justify, never defend, never prove, but what could he be and do different to create different possibilities here. If he got on the plane with all the justification or of proving or of things that he has to prepare to defend himself,
it would have been a mess.
He would have been a mess by the time he landed in Sydney. So he went in from no justification, not defending and not proving, and go from the space of creating different possibilities, and go from the space of what can I be and do different here in this situation when I go into the boardroom to create different possibility for me and for everyone concerned.
And I love the fact the chairman told me it was going to be a very ugly meeting. So I walk into the boardroom and there they are, all these doctors going like this to me. And so I sat down and I said, okay, so what would you like to say? So I just opened up the question and the chairman said, how dare you tell our CEO that we had no skills in financial stuff. We are doctors. Of course we know how finances work. And how dare you tell our CEO that we had no skills in strategy. This is not right, and we're not going to pay you for any of this work that you've done. We're not going to do any. So anyway, attack. So I let them, Now, this is where receiving becomes really important. So I was there. I was listening to what they said. I was not listening to the anger or the emotions behind it. So I was just willing to be with what was being said.
And they were attacking. And like I said before, if you push the barrier down, then the way they're attacking, they're throwing the dart at him, it didn't stick him at all because he didn't put the barrier up. So everything just reflects back because he didn't try to defend. So this is important when the whole board accusing you of being bad and being terrible. If you put the barrier up, he would be a mess. So
the interesting thing is the two things that they were very upset about is that they thought I told the CEO that they didn't have financial skills. Well, she told them because that's how she interpreted it. So what I said to the board is that, okay, so look, I'm so sorry. It doesn't mean you have to mean this stuff. I'm so sorry that you feel this way. What would need to change so that everyone else could see these financial skills that you've got? Do you see what I just did? What would need to change? You've already decided you've got them. That's fine. I didn't say that. But what would need to change so that everyone else could see these financial skills? And they said, well, why would anyone need to see we've got financial skills? I said, well, your funding agency would need to see that. Your membership would need to see it. The society generally would need to see it. So what would need to change so that others could see these financial skills you've got? The chairman said, well, we probably should bring an accountant onto our finance subcommittee. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. That would good. What else would need to change so that others could see your financial skills? Well, we'd probably need to focus a little bit more on looking at some of the strategic issues behind what our finances bring up. So that's a great idea. See what I'm doing? I'm asking questions to unlock their wisdom. Asking questions to unlock their wisdom.
And not justifying anything and not trying to get them to prove that they don't have the skill that required.
So what would need to change to show others that you have what you say you have? Then they came up with about 6 different things that I would have suggested anyway, but because it came from them, I was their best friend after half an hour. And then we got another 6 years work out of that as well.
Yeah.
Or,
instead of get killed by them, we got more and more jobs that they get us.
Just by being willing to receive.
And not justify, not defend, not trying to prove that they are wrong.
Being the question without having any idea of what I was going to say, and trusting that when I was being that curiosity and being that question, that whatever came out of my mouth would actually create something different. And that's that trust in yourself that is the greatest thing that only you can take away from you. Never take it away. Always trust in your awareness.
And when he functioned from being a contribution to make the organization more than they have ever imagined yet, they didn't know that there could be more. And being in that space, Steve was able to entrain the whole board to see different possibilities instead of trying to kill him and trying to prove that they're right. If they didn't actually change, they would have gone. There wouldn't be no board left. The government agency would not fund them. They didn't even know that because they had such a rightness and the fixed point of view that they're so right, to the point that they would not survive, they would not get any more funding unless they change.
So there you go, another story.
Excellent. Thank you for this powerful story. Is there anybody else? And I think then we need to come to a conclusion sooner or later. Okay, thank you, Lorenzo. Shall we switch to your colleague? Yeah.
Oh, we have a whole lot.
Wow.
We have a queue.
Should we order lunch?
Yeah, we should order lunch, I think. What's your name again?
Hi, I'm Luca.
Luca.
So what you're saying is that creativity, in order to be a good conscious leader or just in life, is really important, right?
Absolutely.
And creativity comes from having no fixed point of view about how something should be, and recognizing that everything is connected. Everything is connected. And one of the greatest gifts is to know that every choice creates. Now, people that have chosen to be poor do not recognize that every choice creates, because they judge every choice as, oh, I have to do this because otherwise I won't survive, but it's not a good choice. If you recognize that every choice creates, and then from that sense of excitement and curiosity, look to see what it created, and then use that to create something else. There's no reason why you cannot have multiple businesses, as well as having a full-time job, as well as having a successful family, as well as, there's no reason you can't have it all unless you judge it.
And if you make a choice to be creative from a space of infinite choice and infinite possibilities, imagine what you can create in your life. A lot of people being creative from a fixed point of view. We're coaching a lot of artists who come from a really fixed point of view, that they didn't even realize that they're being so creative. And they see the point of view that they are being creative, so they have to be a struggling artist. So they make so little money in their creative arts work or dance.
I'm only interested in creation, not money, which is just a fixed point of view. I mean,
so we actually
another topic.
Mentor these people. One is the artist who do really amazing artwork, but she made the choice to be struggling for artists as much as possible. So, and we have an amazing dancer who she's wonderful,
world famous and still
wonderful. Again, make the choice to be struggling artists. So that's a fixed point of view about being creative and have to be a certain way. So we actually facilitate them to see, what if you can be creative and from the space of infinite choice and infinite possibilities? What else can you create in your life financially and for the world as well? So just for you, if you choose to be creative, don't buy into the fixed point of view about how being creative is supposed to be, and allow yourself to be creative from the space of infinite choice and infinite possibilities. When I'm talking about infinite, it's not about, you know, the magical thing. It's about unlimited. No limitation in your choice, no limitation in the possibilities that you have.
So I would say we go with another more or less 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody else? Oh yeah, there he is. Yeah.
They're on fire now.
Yeah, they're on fire.
There's someone. Okay.
Yeah, there's a young lady. Yeah, please.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you in the name of our school for and the advices that you gave us. I think they were really helpful, and they will mean a lot for our future and our future choices. So thank you again for everything.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for receiving the information. And what could you take the information to create and generate something totally different in your life? And I suppose the final note is, don't forget, you can choose to be a conscious leader now, right here, right now. You can choose to step into that energy and the space of conscious leader.
You know what I always like to do at the end of such a session? Thank you so much. What was your name? Chiara. Thank you, Chiara, for your gratitude words, the words of appreciation, really kind of you. But what I used to do at the end of such a session is also just ask, you know, very spontaneously, is there anybody who would like to give just a very short feedback what you take away from today? You know, just a short feedback. It doesn't have to be long, but it can be very short, you know.
The one or two key things.
One or two key things, or even emotions whatsoever, just that it sticks with you. And also with
like
us.
what one thing that you can take and apply to your life right now that you know that you have something different.
Exactly. Is there anybody who would like to say something? Not everybody. No, we don't ask you this question to everybody, but is there anybody who would like to just say 2-3 words?
I think I learned that it's important to have our own opinion and to say no, and to prove that we can choose to not be judged, or to have our personal judgment without showing it, and to be open to new ideas and opportunities.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chiara. Anybody else? Now we see them a little bit, you know, full size.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hello.
Who is this?
Good name. Good name.
Seeing possibilities instead of problems.
Yes.
Facciamo prima che quando si cita lei non è già il massimo. There is no problem, only solution.
I love.
Yeah. There's no problems, only possibilities.
Multiple possibilities, not just one.
Yeah.
Our teacher told us that it was said by John Lennon too.
Yeah. He sings better than I do.
Well, we even bring music now into our discussion, which is great. Well, I also say thank you to the two Bowmans. Thank you so much. Thank you to you as well. A great audience, great people and young students who really seem to be, you know, on fire and want to change this world. So
leaders of the world.
Yeah, leaders of the world. So it's been a pleasure having you here, and all the best.
Ciao.
Ciao.